Fucking UFC prediction video. San Antonio this week. We just came off of what was last week. Sacramento. Uriah Faber came back. It's always good to see Uriah Faber. Anybody come out of retirement really and get a win coming out of retirement, which is what Uriah Faber did. A knockout win in the first round. Took him about 46 seconds. So it was a pretty exciting night for Sacramento. We move on to San Antonio, headlined by Rafael dos Anjos and Leon Edwards. The first fight on the prelims is going to be Andre Arlovski and Ben Rothwell, two veterans of the UFC heavyweight division, two knockout artists. Arlovski is currently on a 4-fight losing streak. One of those fights was overturned to a no contest because Walt Harris, who will also be fighting on this card, tested positive for something. You got a USADA violation or whatever, so that struck it. He got a no contest there. It wasn't it wasn't marked as a loss on his record. So technically he's like 0-3-1 in his last 4 fights, whatever. 27-18 total. 17 out of his 27 wins are by knockout. So devastating knockout power. Which is the last thing to go. I know he's an old dude, but it's the last thing to go in fighters is their knockout power. He's been knocked out 10 times out of his 18 losses. So majority of his fights, we think about it, 10, 17, 27 out of his way more fucking knockouts than loss than any other finish in his fights. He had a little time off as well. Ben Rothwell made his return from a 3-year layoff in March, where he lost decision to Vladimir Ivanov, UFC newcomer. He's 36-11, so he has a couple more fights than Arlovski. 20 knockout wins, 13 submission wins, so a total of 33 out of 36 wins are finishes. He only has 3 decision wins. Ben Rothwell seems like more of a obvious choice, but I've been going with this entire last couple of fights, last couple of cards. I've been going with a rather kind of gutsy approach to my picks, and it hasn't done me too bad. I've had some ups, some downs, but it hasn't done me horrible. So I think I'm going to keep on going with the gutsy picks, and I'm going to pick Andre Arlovski by knockout, second round. Of course, the way of finish doesn't affect me and my tally at all. It just affects if I get the pick right, if Arlovski wins. Just want to tell you guys that I got Arlovski by knockout. So first, second round knockout, Andre Arlovski over Ben Rothwell. The second fight on the main card is going to be Alexander Hernandez versus Francisco Trinaldo. Hernandez is 10-2 in MMA, 2-1 in the UFC. His last fight was a TKO loss against Donald Cerrone. When was that? Back in January. He has wins over Olivier Alban Mercier, who we're going to be seeing later on this card as well. No, I'm sorry. He's going to be on 240, which is next week, not this weekend. And then also Beneil Dariush. This is 2 UFC wins. Before that, I think he was in LFA. Francisco Trinaldo is 23-6. He's been in the UFC since 2012. So unlike Alexander Hernandez, he's been around the block in the UFC. He's got his last fight was TKO win over Evan Dunham in September of 2018. So he's had a little bit of time off. It's September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Damn, it's been mad months. I fucking just lost count on my hands, so I'm not even going to try that. But September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Almost 10 months since his last fight. He's got wins over Jim Miller, Paul Feldner, Yancy Medeiros, Ross Pearson, Norman Park, who's doing pretty well in KSW, fighting for a belt coming up. Trinaldo's a beast, man. He's been around the block. Tough fight for Hernandez. I just feel like this is going to be the fight that gets Hernandez back in the winning column. I got Hernandez by knockout, second, third round, a little bit later. James Vick versus Dan Hooker. Great fight. Dan Hooker coming off of that loss to Barboza, TKO loss in December. A complete war and lost to body shots. Before that, he was on a 4-fight winning streak. Gilbert Burns, Jim Miller, Mark Casey, Ross Pearson. So he was on a roll before that. 16 out of 17 of his wins are by finish. Whereas James Vick right now is currently on a 2-fight losing streak. Justin Gaethje back in 2018, August or so of 2018, and then Paul Feldner back in February. He has wins over Francisco Trinaldo, Joe Duffy, Polo Reyes, and this piece of shit Abel Trujillo, who has made headlines in MMA like crazy this past week. We're not going to say what it was for because we're not going to give him publicity like that. But everybody just know that Abel Trujillo is a piece of shit, and he was supposed to be fighting in Battlefield FC. I'm going to say it anyway. He got pulled out of that card later on this August or so because he's in prison right now. Something about sexual exploitation of a minor, which 17-year-olds lie all the time. Hey, I'm 20, whatever. Abel Trujillo sends her pictures or this, that, back and forth. It could be innocent. I'm not going to lie. It could be innocent. But right now, all of our minds, sexual exploitation of a minor immediately comes to our mind as he is trafficking child pornography. And there's no exception to that at all. There's no he said, she said. None of that matters. Abel Trujillo is stamped a piece of shit. And that's what it's going to be until we find out some more facts of the case. He is currently in prison. So, I mean, if he had some kind of argument, I would assume that he wouldn't be in prison, And he is currently locked up in prison. So, sucks, but that's what it is. Piece of shit. I got Dan Hooker. He's a great striker. He's a tough as fuck motherfucker. And I think James Vick is going to stand with him. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight for James Vick and Dan Hooker for the entire duration of the fight. And I believe Dan Hooker is going to be able to either finish him or just point his way to a decision win. I will pause right quick before we move into the Greg fight and say that I see news right before I came out here that Don Cerrone made an Instagram post saying that he has a fight coming up, short notice fight again. He's going to be back. I think he said it's going to be a lightweight. So excited to see him come back down to lightweight, 155. Looking at the 155 rankings right now, Dustin Poirier slated to fight Khabib. Tony Ferguson just fought Don Cerrone. Justin Gaethje's a questionable thing. Conor McGregor's questionable. Why would Conor McGregor come back on a short notice fight? I don't know. Alan Quinta just fought him recently. Edson Barboza's fighting Paul Feldner upcoming. Kevin Lee moved to 170. Anthony Pettis is fighting Diaz. And then Paul Feldner to round out the top 10 is going against Barboza. He said short notice. I want to see when is the Paul Feldner fight coming up. List of things. Paul Feldner. Where would it be at? Maybe here? No. I mean, I don't see it being too short of a notice if it's not coming up quick. Oh, Abu Dhabi. And they're fighting on Abu Dhabi September 7th. So, I mean, that's somewhat short notice, but it's still like a month and a half out. So if maybe Edson or Paul Feldner has came out with an injury, they haven't released it yet, or maybe some kind of USADA violation or something like that, maybe Cerrone steps in there. Either way, we know it's going to be a short notice fight. While I have this up, I will just look at the next couple events. Maybe not this event. Let's not look at. Oh, dude. No, it's welterweight. Lightweight, James Vick, Dan Hooker. Lightweight, Alexander Hernandez, who he just beat and embarrassed against Francisco Trinaldo. I don't see him fighting Trinaldo. Just be a waste of his time, honestly. James Vick or Dan Hooker, I could see. What about next week? I can't see him taking that fight. Nothing big there. Covington Lawler. Jim Miller, Quake Guida. I don't know. I couldn't see him taking any fight there either. He did lose though, so maybe he feels like he doesn't really have an option. He needs to take some kind of fight. I'm seeing nothing. Then we get to the 241. John McDessie, I don't see it. China. Not seeing anything in China. And that brings us to Abu Dhabi. So maybe he's talking about Abu Dhabi. If he's not talking about this week, James Vick or Dan Hooker, then he's got to be talking about Abu Dhabi, Paul Feldner, James, or Edson Barbosa. If it's not on that card, if it's not one of those guys on that card, then I don't understand why he would call it a short notice fight, because September 14th is like 2 months away. 2-month training camp. I don't feel like a short notice, especially if you know about it right now. Carlos Ferreira announced about Islam Makhachev, Davey Ramos. Maybe. I don't know. It's a complicated situation. Maybe. Here's another screwball for you. Maybe Dana White sticking to his guns and never booking Tony Ferguson versus Khabib again. Maybe Dustin Poirier is backing out of that fight, and they're giving Donald Cerrone a fucking title shot, man. Imagine that shit. Honestly, if Donald Cerrone gets a title shot coming off a loss, he should fucking. There should be riots in the fucking street. You know what I mean? I don't want to be the guy that says to go riot in the street, but coming off a loss to Tony Ferguson, and then they're going to say that Tony Ferguson can't fight for the title because they don't want to book that fight anymore. It's bullshit. You know what I mean? I don't know. Getting back to the fights. Greg Hardy going against Juan Adams. Juan Adams is doing the whole fuck Greg Hardy thing. He don't like Greg Hardy. It's a personal thing coming up with them. Greg Hardy's 4-1. 2 of those fights coming on the Contender Series. Yeah, 2 of those fights coming on the Contender Series. 2 of those fights in the UFC. 1-1 in the UFC. He's got a disqualification for a knee to a downed opponent against Alan Crowder. Then he knocked out Dmitry Shmalikov in April. All 4 of his wins are knockouts. Juan Adams is very similar. 5-1. 1-1 in the UFC. Also came up through the Contender Series. Has wins over Chris De La Rocha, and then decision loss to Ian Biola in May, so a month before Greg Hardy's last win. All 5 of his wins are by knockout. So they're knockout artists, the big dudes. Juan Adams got a lot of power. Greg Hardy's got a lot of power. Neither guy's got a lot of technique because they're newer to the sport. 6 fights in, 5 fights in. I think it's going to be a fucking brawl. But I got Juan Adams just because I don't like Greg Hardy. Anytime I get the chance to bet against Greg Hardy, I'm probably going to do so. So, Juan Adams. Just to recap, so I'm about to flip the page and go to the last 2 fights. Juan Adams, Dan Hooker, Alexander Hernandez, and Andrei Arlovski. Next fight would be Alexei Oleinik and Walt Harris, who we spoke about a little earlier. Hopefully not going to get popped by USADA again. Oleinik we talked about in his last fight, when we covered his last fight. Been doing this for a very long time. Just been fighting for a very long time. 57 wins, 12 losses, and 1 no contest. It's incredible. What is that? 69, 70 fights. That's 70 fights on the dot. Pro fights. 45 out of his 57 wins are by submission. So he's a submission artist. He's got wins over Mark Hunt, Junior Albini, Travis Brown, Mirko Krokop, Jeff Monson. He's famous for the Ezekiel choke because he has mastered the Ezekiel choke, and he's done it on so many different people. Walter's 12-7-1. Of course, that no contest being that loss to or that win against Andrei Arlovsky that got turned around for the USADA violation. He's got wins over Sergey Spivak, who he TKO'd in May as his last win. Cyril Esker, Chase Sherman, and Anthony Hamilton. He bursted onto the scene because he took a short notice fight against Fabricio Verdum. I forgot who Verdum was supposed to be fighting on that card. But he took a short notice fight, came out and got submitted in like 30 seconds. So that's how people knew who he was. Now, Walter, he's a knockout guy. He's going to try to stand up with him. But if Alexei Oleinik can get him to the ground, it's going to be a long, long, long night. And I got Oleinik for a fact. I got to just add another submission to the record, and maybe even an Ezekiel choke. Who knows? But I definitely have it in favor for Alexei Oleinik, for sure, 110%. RDA versus Leon Edwards, main event. RDA's pretty much main event just about every card that he's been in for the last 4 or 5 cards. 29-11. 10 submissions out of his 29 wins. Last fight was a win over Kevin Lee in May. Also has wins over Tarek Safardine, Neil Magny, and Robbie Lawler while at welterweight. He has 2 losses at welterweight, so he is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 at welterweight. 2 losses are to Covington and Usman, so 2 wrestlers. He naturally doesn't do good with wrestlers. And Usman's the champ, so I mean that's. He's never been submitted. So he's a good jiu-jitsu player. He's just not good at getting out-wrestled and outpointed while he's wrestling. So, everybody has their kryptonite, but that he is in luck because Leon Edwards is no wrestler. Leon Edwards is 17-3, 7-fight win streak right now since losing to Kamaru Usman back in 2015. So he lost to a young Kamaru Usman, not close to the belt Kamaru Usman. Since then, he has wins over Albert Tubanov, Vicente Luque, Brian Barberina, Peter Sabrata, Donald Cerrone, and Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson was back in March. He got the decision win right before stepping out of the cage and getting 3-piece by Jorge Masvidal and embarrassed. So I think he might have a loss. I would consider it a loss. He got fucked up. He came over talking shit, trying to act like a badass, and then he got pieced up. I like Jorge Masvidal, man. He don't take no shit. And he definitely wasn't taking shit from Leon Edwards that day. 9 out of 17 of his wins by finish. I can't see a way in where Leon Edwards, who gets most of his wins by standing up and being technical and pointing out, like point fighting on the stand-up, is going to beat Rafael dos Anjos, who can point fight for days and stand up, and also can point fight on the ground, can submit you, has a fucking shitload of goddamn decision wins. He's got a 10 out of 10 out of 29. That leaves 19. He's got to have at least 9 to 10 submissions. Let me see. I'll look at it right now. Rafael dos Anjos. 14 by decision. Hot damn. So 10 submissions, 14 by decision. He only has 5 knockouts. Never been submitted. Which plays somewhat into, he doesn't. The ground game is hard for him as far as points. That's where I think he's gonna have trouble. If it goes to the ground, he get out wrestled Point blank, period. Leon Edwards only has 3 submission wins to his name. His 2 losses are by decision, and then he has 1 disqualification loss. So he has never been finished. He only has 3 submission wins, 6 knockout wins, and he has 8 decisions. So majority of his wins come by decision. Majority of RDA's wins come by decision. It's obvious that Leon's not going to get in there and wrestle with you. Decision over Nelson, decision over Cerrone, knockout over Peter Sobrata, decision over Barberina, decision over Luque, submission over Tubanov, loss to Usman, decision. My dude just is a decision machine, and I don't think that's going to hold up well with a guy like RDA. So I'm going to give that to RDA. I think pretty handedly, man. I'd say it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to say if RDA will be able to get him to the ground and submit him. I would say if that happens, 3rd, 4th round, or if it's going to be a decision, I know hands down I'm going to pick RDA. So to wrap up the picks, Rafael dos Anjos, RDA, Alexio Olenek, Juan Adams, Dan Hooker, Alexander Hernandez, and Andrei Arlovski. It's going to be a pretty good card. It's going to be better than the pay-per-view coming the week after. So I could say tune in, man. It's my girlfriend's birthday, so we won't be doing a fight companion unless she falls asleep early for some reason, which I don't think she will. So probably bank on no fight companion this Saturday. We will be trying to watch at least from the Greg Hardy fight on. She doesn't really stay up late, so I think we have a good chance of seeing at least a Greg Hardy fight, Olenek fight, and then the RDA fight. But it's a great card, man. Followed by we wouldn't be doing a fight companion for. We're not going to do one for 240. Probably going to end up doing one again for UFC Newark. That is my mother's birthday, so we might be late to that one. It might not be the entire card, but we're probably going to do something for that one. Nothing for Uruguay. And then we're probably going to have a big one. We'll have a couple of different people here, a couple of different guests watching UFC 241. Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier, Nate Diaz, Anthony Pettis. It's going to be a great card. We're free. We got all the resources in the world, and we're going to be putting on a fight companion for that one. That is August 17th. It's week. Yeah, all right, cool. So August 17th would be that date, and that's what we're going to do the big fight companion for. So make sure you come check that out. Prediction show next Tuesday. Yeah, next Tuesday. I think they have a contender series. I'm going to check on it. UFC.com homepage. I'm pretty sure there's a contender series next week. We got. I also want to look at the start time for this. Main card starts at 9. Prelims start at 6. So the main card starts at 9. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights. 3 fights would take maybe 10:30-ish. Yeah, we'll get around to it. Let's see if I can find the contender series on here. Events. All events. Oh, they don't got the contender series on here. Dana White, Tuesday night contender series. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, July 23rd. What's today? What is today? Today is the 17th. The 23rd is next Tuesday. So, yep. Fight companion again next week for the contender series. I don't know why I just turned it off. I should have looked to see who was fighting, see if we know any of those guys. Terrence McKinney, Sean Woodson coming in on short notice fighting Terrence McKinney. Resume, oh my God. Jordan Williams. Not much, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight card. 2 featherweight bouts, a lightweight bout, a middleweight bout, and a heavyweight bout. No female fights. I don't really know any of these guys to round out the rest of the year, honestly. Brooke Weaver. Brooke Weaver is going to be on week 8, August 13th. Missed weight for the first Contender Series fight. But yeah, man, that wraps us up, man. We're gonna take this 25-minute video to the house here. Predictions, we got them all locked in. We could see you this weekend. Don't bank on it. Bank on next Tuesday. We'll be back for a Contender Series fight companion, man. It's been great. I love doing the predictions. I hope you guys pick the same people as me because we're gonna do good again this week. The full predictions will be out. Today's Wednesday. I'd say at least by. I'm gonna try to get them out tomorrow. We're gonna get the full card predictions out tomorrow. So be looking for that graphic, full cards. I'll put that shit on Twitter. The Barbecue Pit _live. Follow me. Come check it out. Until next time, man. It's been great. Mike with the Barbecue Pit. We'll see you next Tuesday, possibly this Saturday. We'll see. Hit me up.